Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, and welcome to the Marketing Essentials podcast. Our unique team helps small businesses grow by providing essential marketing expertise.
Hello and welcome to the Marketing Essentials podcast. I am Bill with W. Parmentier Photography.
I'm Justin with Justin Kerr Design.
I'm Alicia with the Spark Social.
And together we make up
The
Marketing Essentials team.
And today we have a really special visitor. I should say a perennial visitor of ours, Mr.
Kind
Bob
of semi-regular, right?
Mr. Bob Salvas.
You
Bob.
and Nicole are in a neck-and-neck race to who can be on this
man,
podcast.
she's tough
the
to
most.
beat. I'm trying, though.
So
She's coming in later, so you guys might be tied.
I was just
Still gonna
about to
be
say,
behind.
don't tell him that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Can we do two? Can we make this a two-potter?
That's
Well,
what
you
I
know
was
what
going to say. We won't be able to
we
get
need
rid
to
of
have
him.
you and Nicole on at the same time.
Oh, that would be fun.
You know, I was going to say we're not going to get rid of him
Cage
today
match.
now.
Yeah.
He's going to stay with us until 4 o'clock this
all
afternoon.
right.
Yeah, I'm not leaving.
So now that we've got him here, what are we talking to him about?
Well, we're talking about promotional products.
today? Okay.
Now, most of us, when we think of promotional products, what do we think of?
We think of the cheesy stuff that you get when you go
Yeah, like the
to a
stress balls
convention
and-
or a trade show, and you have the bag, and they put in the pens and the magnets and the
Mm-hmm.
little sticky notes and all that stuff, which are great. I mean, I take all that stuff home. My wife loves free pens, but let's admit it,
It's
a lot of that stuff is
tchotchke.
really cheesy or cheap. You know, it's not good quality stuff.
Yeah,
so
so-
it's not going to be something that you're going to use necessarily to market your business at a high level.
Sure.
Right.
So that is what we're not here to talk about today, because most of us don't want to use that stuff. Yeah. I mean, I guess.
Well, you know, I've
Let me
had,
back up.
I'm on the same page as you guys because I've been to countless expos, trade shows, etc. And, you know, so the typical thing is you get the bag, you fill it full of stuff, you bring the bag back to your office, you put it in a drawer, and you never actually look at the stuff.
Do it again, yeah.
Right?
Have one in my office right now.
There you go, right? So, you know, and that's the biggest knock on this whole thing is that people will either throw items away. You know, how many brochures have you been given at a trade show or you know, trinkets or how many stress balls do we need in our life, right? Or if they keep them all together in that giant bag that they give you when you first enter the trade show floor, and now you just hide that somewhere and you never actually see it. So it becomes a useless piece of marketing for the most part. Now, that alone sometimes turns people off to the idea of promotional products, but what they miss is that there are other better uses of promotional products, utilitarian items, as well as higher end, what they commonly call branded gifts. So if you hand a prospect or a client something really nice that has your branding on it, that's very tasteful and utilitarian, it has to be able to be used, because otherwise you miss the benefit of them seeing your nice, beautiful logo that Justin designed. You know, so shameless plug. They don't get to see that, you know, unless they're actually utilizing whatever the product is.
Okay, so these utilitarian items you're talking about, give us a couple of examples of what you're talking about as far as.
Well, some of the more popular promotional products, as far as numbers that are out there in the world, are apparel. Apparel is very popular. That includes things like hats and vests. You also see, if you go to a lot of conferences, you see the branded lanyards. There is a lot of writing instruments. And writing instruments have, you know, they come the full range. You know, Bill and I talked about this earlier. It's like in any kind of marketing, there's bad and there's good,
Sure.
within whatever the type is, right? So you could go to a trade show, you could get a cheap pen that was made in China, and it breaks that day, or it puts ink on your on your shirt, right? And it's not a happy experience.
No, not at all.
Or you could get a really fine writing instrument. Like right here in Rhode Island, there's a company called Garland Writing Instruments. They're in Coventry, Rhode Island, and they make one of the best writing instruments, this beautiful ballpoint pen that they make. You know, everything is done right there in Coventry, and it's a lot of people don't realize Rhode Island has a history there. We used to have the AT Cross, and we had Quill Pen.
Oh, Quill was here?
Quill was
wow.
headquartered
Years
here
ago.
as well, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And what happened was Quill closed, and AT Cross, while they're still in Rhode Island, they've moved almost all of their production overseas.
Yes.
So the only pen manufacturer, high-end pen manufacturer left in the state of Rhode Island is Garland. And they manufacture those pens, and a lot of people haven't heard of them because they manufacture their pens for the promotional products industry.
Yeah, because I love pens. I've heard of them, so it's for me. They're cool writing instruments. You're
Right,
absolutely right. And I've seen some of the promotional pens that they make, and they're beautiful pens. They
And
really are.
the third category, Bill, is is drinkware. So you've got apparel, you've got writing instruments, and you've got drinkware. So that means your water bottles, your coffee mugs, all those things that people are constantly walking around with, especially now when you have a lot of awareness on disposable, water things, and people who are
Right.
environmentally conscious, they don't want to do that, so they're getting these nice water bottles and they're carrying around their own water. I know my daughter does it all the time.
As we handed him a bottle of water.
Yeah,
when he came in.
a disposable bottle of water. No.
Well, now, let me ask you this, Bob, because at home we've got a lot of those water bottles that we've picked up from
over
different,
time.
and a lot of them have marketing on them, and some of them are really just
Cheap.
cheap plastic. I mean,
Yeah.
it might last a season, but like the one I carry around, this is double walled stainless steel.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, well, it's I intend
mine
to
is
keep this
too.
for 10 years.
Sure.
So where would the items that you're talking about land? I'm assuming it's not on the cheap plastic end, but it's probably not on this end either.
No, it all depends on what the use of the promotional product is by the business that pays for them, right? So let's just say, for example, say I have a high-end company and my clients are worth a lot to me. I could get a very high-end promotional product with some branding on it. I could spend. I've seen people get those. What are those coolers that keep it?
Oh, the
cold?
Yetis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Yeti coolers, the Yeti mugs.
Yeah, those are really nice.
Yeah, I've seen all kinds of things that you can get, and get them with
Branded?
some kind of branding on them, right? So you can really go upscale much more so than most people think. Again, most people are looking at these promotional products for what they know, which is that trade show. How many of these can I take off the table?
I think
Bob?
that's probably because that so permeates the industry right now.
It really does.
It
It really does. But there's other ways. Like people wonder what kind of marketing can you do? Well, it's just like we've talked about in the past. You don't want to take your message to somebody who's not in your target market, right?
Right.
So I don't understand why you would have a trade show display and let everybody take a pen.
Yeah.
Because everybody is not your
customer.
target market.
Right.
So here's a better idea. Why don't you have a nicer pen, a higher quality item, doesn't matter if it's
Right.
a pen or not, right? A higher quality item that's actually worth something because quality says something about your company, certainly. And you don't put it on top of the table, but you put it underneath the table. And now when Bill comes by to my table, we have a conversation and we exchange cards, and I realize that Bill is a really good prospect for me.
Ah.
Now,
Yeah, you do it to him.
before he leaves, I reach under the table. Hey, Bill, thanks for stopping by the table today. I just want to give you this little gift, thanking you for spending some time with us. And I'll
That's a
follow
great
up
idea.
with you next week.
Now, would you
That's a great
suggest
idea.
having the throwaway tchotchke stuff also in addition to that, or would you-
Yeah, we
It's
got to have
okay
the
to have
stress
some
balls
stuff.
out there.
Yeah,
for
well,
the,
no, I mean, just
for
for the guy that wants to come
watch,
back.
but for the special people.
or actually somebody like us, just put a bowl of candy out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's
And
I'm an easy mark.
And you know what? Sometimes those things do bring people over to your booth, which
Yeah.
is part of the kind of the marketing plan. You do want to attract people to your booth. So I'm okay with people having some few items, especially like if they have the mints or they have the candies. Those are a good thing because I know I'll go for the candy, right?
yeah.
I think that works.
And then as
better.
I'm eating the candy, I'm looking up, what do you guys do anyway?
Yeah.
And then we can have a qualifying conversation.
Yeah.
If this is not relevant to me, they're not going to reach out and give me the really nice gift.
Yeah,
Right, but I like that you have that conversation.
Yeah.
You determine is this a good solid lead, and then you use that high end promotional item to make that connection.
And bonus for good marketing people, you can actually measure your results after that. because now you know who stopped by, and you start keeping a spreadsheet of everybody that stopped by that you had a conversation with that got one of these
The pens.
promotional products or branded gifts.
Now, would you suggest like maybe grabbing a card from them?
Yes,
Saying, hey,
absolutely.
say, you know, oh, I'd like to give you this. Can I have your card? And I'll put you on my mailing
Yeah.
list or whatever it happens. Not necessarily a mailing list, but can
I'd love to follow up with you
Yeah.
with some more information. Here's a gift for stopping by. I wonder if you wouldn't mind giving us your business card.
Yeah.
Most people are going to do that, especially when you hand them a gift.
Sure, especially if it's a nice one.
People love gifts,
Yeah.
man.
So I think like that's a key word, gift, because when you look at like the cheaper level stuff, it's like, okay, like anybody can take one. It's not going to break the bank.
Right.
But when you use the word gift, it's like
Yeah.
you're giving it to someone who matters to you, who is a
Right.
true prospect, and it's a gift. It's not a Chotsky anymore.
And one of the things about this is, generally speaking, advertising, like mass media advertising, it's really taking a beating right now because the market is too fragmented. So I did a seminar recently, and one of the things we looked at, we said, how many people watched the final episode of MASH? I'm going to use round numbers here because I don't remember the exact numbers. So, right,
Yeah,
you and me both, right?
What year
all the
about
hands
was
are going
that,
up.
Bob? Was that like early
That was-
90s?
That was in
or-
the 70s.
That was before you were born.
Actually,
I
no.
guess I was watching the reruns and I didn't know it. With
That
my
show
dad.
ended before you were born.
So MASH was the most popular show of its time period,
Yeah.
and in the final episode, approximately 100 million people watched that episode.
Yeah.
Right. Fast forward to the 1990s, Friends, the
Yeah.
other the comedy of that era, its final episode, 50 million people watched it. Right, watched the final episode, and then most recently, The Big Bang Theory
Yep.
had its final episode. They had 25 million people
Going
watch the final.
Diminishing
so you can
returns.
see a pattern here, and it's all in alignment with how fragmented the communications are in this world. I don't know, Justin, where you get your news from. Are you getting it online? Are you watching Fox? Are you watching CBS? Are you reading the newspaper? What blogs are you reading?
I wait for my wife to tell me what's going on.
Me too. So there are a lot of different ways that we all get information, and the problem as the business owner is, where do I put my advertising dollars
Yeah.
in order to capture my market if I don't know where my market is getting my information from? So if I had a big national company and it was the 1950s, all I had to do was have a TV commercial on the I Love Lucy show.
Because there
and
were
I'd
Mad Men
penetrate-
style, yeah.
I
There
would
were only
penetrate-
3 networks.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that was one of the most popular shows of the time, and I would penetrate the majority of the American audience.
Right.
The only other place you'd go beyond that would be magazines.
Or
Because
news-
magazines were big back
magazine,
then.
newspaper, radio,
Yeah.
TV. That
Yeah.
was what you had.
That was
We've
what
interviewed a lot of marketers that have said the same thing you are, that targeted marketing
Is what you have to go
is
with.
the most effective.
is
I
the
mean,
most
we
effective.
recently talked with Bethany Sullivan from Lamar,
Lamar.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Billboards.
Yep.
And even that marketing segment has used technology to target their audiences, and they've used the data that's available to be very careful about where that marketing goes and collecting the data on who's looking at it
Right.
and also who's responding to it. Because, like you said, it's so fragmented that you can't just assume that, oh, if I put this up somewhere, it's going to hit the target audience that I need.
And here's the kicker on that, right? So it's fragmented and it's hard to find your audience. But then the number one reason why any advertising would work, the number one reason is repetition, because they see it again and again and again. And repetition breeds familiarity, and then they remember it. You know, the whole, the magic number 7, or the 6 to 20 touches
Yeah.
in order to, we've all heard this, and
Yeah.
and depending on which study you look at will tell. I don't think there is a magic number. It all depends on what the product or service is, and me as an individual, how many times it takes me to respond to go through that sales cycle.
But it's
Plus they-
it's more than just a couple.
Right.
Plus their need. Do they need it right now?
Yeah. At what level are they at in that process? So now you add to the fragmentation the fact that you cannot guarantee repetition to your actual target market. So now, and whatever it is, a billboard, magazine, whatever. So now I see the ad in a magazine, and I am in that target market, but I'm not ready to pull the trigger on this
Right.
yet. Am I going to see that ad again? And on the small business side, which we were talking about earlier, can that small business afford to run that ad every single month
sure.
or every single week? Because now they're paying for those exposures every single time. So what I tell my small business clients is, listen, if you get a nice promotional product that people are going to use into the hands of your prospects, the repetition is going to happen each time. You pay for it once, and the repetition is going to happen every time they engage with that product.
Okay, so let's take a hypothetical situation. Joe, business owner, small business owner, comes to you and says, "Hey, Bob, I want to start working on the promotional end of my business. I've got a decent website, I've got some social media presence, but I really want to have some stuff that I can give to potential clients that's worthwhile. But I don't have a huge budget. But what would you suggest to me as far as if I were to say that to you?"
Well, it depends on the type of business,
Okay.
right? Because not everybody can get away with having a T-shirt.
Sure.
Right? Because, I don't know, maybe wealth management or something. It wouldn't be so,
Yeah.
because we still have to talk about congruence here.
Sure.
Right? So whatever your marketing, your why, and I know we've all talked about this at this table before, that whatever your brand, you got to be on brand, right?
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Whatever your why is, whatever your mission is, and if you do something a little off kilter,
Yeah,
it's
people
not
like
going to resonate.
It doesn't fit your brand.
No.
So, like-
Right. So if I'll give you an actual example.
Okay.
We had an accountant, a small business accounting firm. And what they would do is the small business owners would come in, sit with the accountant for about a half an hour. They talk about some different things. They were considering using the accountant for their services. And then those people would leave because they would want to go to a couple different accountants before picking. Very important choice, right? Especially for a small business.
Yeah, it's going to be a long-term
Right.
relationship.
So this
Hopefully.
particular accountant had a close rate which was only about 25%, and he was concerned that he should be having more conversions. So what he did was he did the pen thing, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's a very nice pen presented in a box that's very businesslike and congruent with his industry. I'm an accountant. I don't know if it was-
In a box, I like that.
Yeah,
so it wasn't
right,
just
in a
like he
gift
had a
box.
cup of them
Right.
sitting
They
at the
just threw it
reception.
on
Yeah.
them, right? No, it was in
Do
a
they brand
gift
the
box.
box too? Do you
Yeah.
have the ability to brand the outside
Oh
of
yeah,
the box too?
absolutely,
Oh, wow.
absolutely. So now he hands a gift, literally a gift, to this person to thank them for coming in and considering using his firm. After he did that for I think it was about 6 months when he went back and looked at it, his conversions had almost doubled.
Wow.
So those pens are obviously more expensive than the Chotsky type.
Right,
But
very much so.
the value of the customer, it makes sense with the
Yeah, we got to
conversion
talk
rate.
about the lifetime value.
Yeah.
Heck, I'd buy
Right?
those for that kind of conversion rate.
That's actually, yeah.
Double
So
my conversion
I
rate?
think that's a great example of what we're talking about here, and that's he was using it in a very specified, targeted way to help. He was already getting the people coming through the door, but to get those conversions, that was the missing piece for him, and he used the nice gift. Think about this. Have you ever seen an advertisement that you said thank you for?
I like that.
Probably not. But if somebody hands you a gift, even if it's a branded gift, if it's a nice enough gift, even sometimes even if it's a cheap gift, you still say thank you. Somebody's giving you something.
Right.
And there's a principle called the Endowment principle, which says that when something's in my possession, it's worth more than if it's not in my possession. It's really kind of one of those psychological things. And the other thing which we haven't touched on, but I know that Justin is going to like, is this is the one piece of marketing that is really in alignment with the whole idea of touch, the haptic marketing thing.
Which you've talked about in the past.
Which I know you've talked about, especially in the terms of like brochures and business cards.
Yes.
Right? And it's very, it's very important in that realm. But the same kind of things apply to this as well, because the human touch is something that we have not paid as much attention to since the whole world went digital.
Yes.
Right. So now that we have this, and listen, I'm on board with you guys. We're all 100%. Digital's not going away. Right. This is a major, major part of everybody's marketing, and it has to be. Yeah. Right. We wouldn't have a podcast. So it's a major part of everybody's marketing. But what we tend to lose sight of is there are other ways to make an impression on people, and that sense of touch. There are 2,000 receptors in our fingertips. I mean, we interpret our world through a sense of touch unlike any other species on the planet. The dogs can smell and hear better than us, and there's all kinds of different species out there that interpret the world differently. We primarily interpret the world through our five senses, and the most pronounced sense is actually touch. And we've talked in the past about when you guys interviewed me for direct mail. We talked about the Millward Brown study and how they took actual brain MRI scans and looked at how the areas of the brain that were affected when people were getting a marketing message and touching something at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was dramatically affecting the emotions and the memory parts of the brain, which that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, there's a big movement in the family photography industry of going back to prints again for that very reason.
Right.
You're holding a good quality album in your hands as opposed to somebody just handing you a thumb drive with a bunch of photos on it.
I actually had an experience like that this weekend. Yeah. So I was doing one of my pirate gigs, and we had an encampment.
Yeah.
And somebody had come over with an envelope full of photographs from the 80s.
And what was the first thing somebody did?
And they were just flipping through, and they weren't flipping through fast like you would on your phone. They were taking time with each photo and saying, "Oh, I remember that. Oh, look at this guy. I wonder what happened to him." And it was a very personal,
Right.
There's a study that
experience.
said the average person that holds a photo in their hand will hold it 5 to 10 times longer than if they were looking at the same
yeah.
photo.
You don't see people
digitally.
sitting around an iPhone scrolling slowly.
There's
It
actually-
doesn't happen like that. Yeah.
There's an actually commercial. I belong to Professional Photographers of America, and there's a promotional commercial that they let us use for free. That actually it's a funny one because it's the commercial actually goes where you see this guy walking through his living room, and there's a bunch of what look like framed photos, but when you get close to them, one's a framed hard drive, one's a framed thumb drive, and it's a play on the fact that people like to be able to see and touch what they have. So not to get too far off topic,
Right.
but that's
But
very
no,
important.
it's a major part of this point because a lot of the small business world, and we're all small businesses, and we get it too. It's like, oh, the internet changed everything. This is wonderful. Social media is fantastic. It levels the playing field for a lot of small businesses. But also they have to consider that if they're having any kind of issues getting to the next level, they might want to incorporate something else, something that's an offline thing that is tied to something that is going to affect people differently.
Well, I think digital has been great. Like you said, it's leveled the playing field for a lot of small businesses. But it's a tool.
Yes.
And it's never going to replace the personal connection and personal touch. So it has to be part of your marketing, right? So things like what we're talking about today with the promotional items give you that opportunity to make that connection with somebody. And like you said, you're giving a gift. And there's inherent value to that versus, oh, there's something on the table, it's free for everybody, I'm just going to pick it up.
Right.
Or I saw an ad online.
Right.
It's that connection, and that is critical. It's been part of marketing since marketing existed. And I don't think we can't set that aside and say, well, I'm just going to use the digital tool because it's not going to replace that.
No, I have a brother-in-law who's in sales, and he travels all the time. Now, a couple of years ago when they came out with video conferencing and Zoom and all this other stuff, it was great to have that available. But in these big companies, they're still getting on a plane.
Yep.
And why is that, right? Well, there's a reason for that. Because it's different to be in someone's physical presence than it is to be on a screen. Now, a screen is a great secondary plan.
Oh, absolutely.
But, there's nothing that replaces that. And that's why we all network.
Yep.
This is for the exact same reason.
Right.
We can do all our LinkedIn, hey, introduce me to so-and-so all you want.
It's
and
a great tool.
It's a great tool.
Right.
But it's a starting
At
point.
the same time, we all of us, spend some time out there in public getting face-to-face with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a physical world that we live in.
And we are not our tools.
No.
We have to make that personal connection.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked about this in a previous podcast where sometimes you meet somebody in person and you just find out you don't connect.
It's like
Sometimes it's the other thing, right?
Yeah,
yeah, it was great meeting you. Please don't ever call me.
It was not so great meeting you.
The
Where's the
online,
crappy pen?
We'll talk sometime.
the online experience has to become offline at some point.
Yes.
And
Right.
when it does, make it a good one.
Yeah.
And differentiate yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And I think everybody really likes to feel appreciated. I think that's the one thing that we don't always see enough of. And some of the studies that I've seen on promotional products is they surveyed a bunch of people who got them, like 71% had a feeling of happiness, 46 had a feeling of thankfulness, 52% were interested in the company that gave it to them. A lot of people are getting these things and then doing research, going online and seeing who this company is that gave me this gift. If they didn't, if they didn't have that personal connection.
Right.
So there's some, it has some legs, right?
Yeah.
It's extending beyond what that item is. And the other thing about this, the third piece is, so number one, I always tell people is repetition, right? Because now you're going to be exposed multiple times, and then you don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to drive by the sign or whether or not they're going to see your ad in the magazine, because they're going to see it if it's an item that's in front of them.
Yes.
So repetition is number one. Number two is that tangible touch thing, where it's impacting them in a much deeper, more significant way. And then number three is the third part of this that makes it successful is word of mouth, because there is a part of promotional products where I have something that other people see. So whether I'm wearing a shirt or a mug or whatever it is, that brand is being exposed to everybody that sees it besides me.
Yep.
So that's what I consider to be nonverbal word of mouth. So if I have nonverbal word of mouth, people automatically assume that I support that company, or
Sure.
that I like that company in some way, or that organization. So that it becomes a nonverbal word of mouth. And it's funny. I sometimes tell people that if they ever see me on the street with a New York Jets shirt on, they can punch me in the mouth.
Or you've been kidnapped and forced to wear that.
Or I've been kidnapped, right? Yeah, call the police. Right, because everybody who knows me knows I'm this avid Patriots fan.
Right.
And so I would never go around with the Jets shirt on, right?
Except maybe as a Halloween costume.
Yeah, maybe.
or
Even
lost-
then.
Yeah.
Or a lost bet.
All right, so I know we're coming close to the end of our episode, so I want to ask this, and you touched on it a little bit before, but we're talking about higher end promotional products, and a lot of our audience, small business owners, entrepreneurs, very budget conscious.
Right, sure.
So you talked a little bit before about being strategic, having a limited edition of these, handing them out very strategically.
Right.
What are some other things that you could give as advice to small business owners as to how to get the most bang for their buck using these higher end items?
Right. Well, I mean, the higher end items are wonderful, and again, your tactics are very thoughtful in that. I have X number of items. I'm going to give them to my best prospects or my best customers, right?
Okay. Right.
But then, if you have the opportunity to give other things that are utilitarian in nature, sometimes you don't have to break the bank to get them. Let me give you a quick example. So we've all heard of Monroe Dairy, right? So Monroe Dairy's been around Rhode Island for a very long time. Well, I was doing some work for Monroe Dairy a couple of years ago, and I was telling my cousin. And my cousin had been a Monroe Dairy customer 20 years ago,
Okay.
right? He goes to his kitchen drawer, and he pulls out one of those rubber jar openers.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
I still have a couple of those, yeah.
Right. And it had Monroe Dairy's logo on it. He goes, "This is what I got from them when I was their customer, and we have never thrown this away because it's
useful.
helpful. It's useful.
These things are awesome.
Right? So here's 20 years of branding from this item that maybe cost them a couple dollars.
Yeah. Another great example. Now, I'm a diehard Red Sox fan. I have been since I was a kid. And it seems kind of on the low end of the promotional scale, but I got a magnet once from a real estate agent that had the entire schedule for the season for the Red Sox. Guess where that was? The entire
On your fridge.
Refrigerator. Yeah.
It sounds cheap, but
No.
the reality is it's like you said, front of mind. When you see that, it's like, oh yeah, this person gave it to me, and their name's on it.
Yeah,
you know?
and so there's two things here really. There's the utilitarian value, the usefulness of it. Is it something I'm actually going to use?
Yes.
And always quality is important, but nicer items are wonderful, and you can get almost anything, and you can really make an impression with people. But you can, if you're a smaller business with a smaller budget, just make sure you focus on the utilitarian use of that item, because that's really where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Like Bill said, they got the refrigerator magnet, and it's sitting there. Every time I go by, or if I'm looking to see if the Red Sox are playing Saturday or Sunday,
it's
I
there.
look at that. It's right in
Right.
front of me.
Right.
So you get the exposure from seeing that multiple
As,
times.
as opposed to like a magnet that just has, the company logo on it. People are probably not going to, they'll probably, if you're lucky, they'll get it to the house. before
Yeah.
it
Well,
goes
I
to-
think that is something we've talked about before
Yeah.
in marketing is that inside view versus outside view. If you have an item and it just has your logo on it and you think someone's going to put value in that,
They're not.
because that's inside thinking.
Yeah.
As you said, Bob, you have to think about utilitarian. Is this something they're going to use? What value is it to them?
Right.
Then if it has your branding on it, they're going to connect that value to your company.
Right. And then they're going to feel that sense of appreciation and think of your company in a more positive way.
Exactly.
Because
Absolutely.
you gave us something. Because that's the other part of this. It's that reciprocity. You gave me something. Sure. And I have
Something
that.
of use.
I have that feeling like I want to do something for you.
Right.
Right.
At home we have every Friday my wife takes the kids to the library. That's the thing, right? So we always have a ton of books to take back, and we use those little giveaway totes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
great.
the ones that are still being used are the better quality ones.
That you get at some trade
the
shows
ones that
somewhere.
don't rip like after 2 uses.
Right.
But it's got a big logo on the side of it, and
Yeah,
every time we
right.
pull that out to fill it with
You show it
books,
somebody, yep.
we're looking at that branding and we're carrying it around, and other people are seeing that branding.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that was also one of the top 5 items is those because of people trying to get away from again plastics
Yeah.
and throwaways.
Something that's like a canvas or
Yeah.
something really nice.
The funny thing, my favorite thing to grab is the coffee mugs. This is like ceramic coffee mugs.
Oh yeah.
I've got one that I picked up at a trade show probably a couple of years ago now, and I use it constantly. It's a nice, heavy-duty,
Those last,
Yeah.
yeah.
nice
Yeah.
quality coffee mug.
Or the really nice travel ones.
Yeah, travel ones too.
Those are nice too, especially ones that like keep your drink hot all
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Yeah, oh
I
yeah.
think I have one today with me that I've had forever.
Yeah.
But the bag thing is you're going to be carrying that around,
Well,
whether you're
some
going
people,
to the
yeah.
beach or whether you're going
Good
to
point,
the
yeah.
library or whatever. It's a great just catch-all tote,
Which is that secondary thing
and
that
you're
Bob
a
was
walking
talking about,
billboard.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, exactly. The walking billboard. You become that word of mouth, which we all know. Word of mouth is still,
Yeah.
king. And I mean, the advent of social media just meant word of mouth had a megaphone, right? But now there's also the offline stuff, which is our communication. I can tell you I had a great experience at a restaurant last night, or I could be wearing the restaurant's logo on me, and you just infer that I have a positive feeling about that place.
Yeah, because people aren't going to wear something that they're not. That they don't like.
They're not. I mean, generally speaking, people are not going to put themselves out there. So if I support this political thing, I'll wear it,
Right.
and you're going to know that I support it just by my wearing
Right,
it.
yeah, sure.
Right.
Wow. Ton of information, Bob.
Lots to think about
Good-
before
good
you
stuff.
just go and order something without putting any thought
It's
into it for your business.
and, it's really a good idea to speak to a marketing consultant, before you just willy-nilly go in, because what happens, we've all seen it, whether we're talking about advertising, promotional products, whatever we're talking about, sometimes people do things that feeds the business owner's ego.
Yes, yeah, they're doing it
As
for
opposed to-
themselves,
And I'm
not.
not trying to be offensive here, but just
It's
listen.
true. It's
Listen,
true.
if it's all about look at me, that's not going to work in marketing.
Nope.
My pens
No.
are everywhere.
Yeah.
Ain't I important?
And I got billboards everywhere, and I've got.
Of course, when someone needs me, they'll remember that pen and look at it. And
Usually when
find
there's
the
a big
number.
face on the billboard, that's the giveaway, right?
True enough. So Bob,
Yeah.
so Bob,
And we all know who those people are.
and moving on. So Bob, if somebody wants to really explore using promotional materials, how do they get in contact with you?
Well, I would love to have them, reach out to me directly. I have a website, which is bobsalvas.com, just my name, BOBSALVAS. And that's the best place. I have information there on the parts of offline marketing that I'm really involved with, and you guys all know what they are. Networking, as well as the seminars, as well as direct mail. And there's a tab also on promotional products.
Great.
And they could certainly reach out to me by email or phone as well. My contact information is right on the website. I'm happy to talk to them about a strategy or answer any questions they might have.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
I
and
love
sitting
hanging out
us.
with you guys.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't really much of an arm twist, was it, to
I
get
know,
you in
really.
here?
And we love having you on. Otherwise, we wouldn't.
Thanks so much, Bob. And
Yes.
that wraps it up for today's
Today.
episode. So until next time,
We'll see you next week.
bye.
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 Thank you for joining us today. And as always, you can find the back episodes of our podcast on Apple Podcasts, and you can also find us on our YouTube channel. Both of them are the Marketing Essentials team.
You can find us on the web at marketingessentialsteam.com. And if you subscribe through our website, you'll receive a weekly email and letting you know when each episode has been published. Also, you'll receive a link to subscriber-only content.
You can also find us on Facebook in our private Facebook group. Just search Little Roadie Marketing Support Group. It's a great place for other marketing professionals and business owners where we can share marketing advice, challenges, and general trends. Hope to see you there.